My name is Anne Fløyen. I'm curator at the museum at the southwest coast of Norway. In this region, farmers began using chemicals to kill their weeds and fungi in the second decade of the 20th century. This transformation didn't happen by itself. I will talk about a measure that was established in this decade, arenas of miracles. Performances that was intended to persuade farmers to make use of herbicides. What characterized such arenas? What kind of knowledge did they convey? Farming is an idea and a practice that domesticates species in their surroundings. And the farmers in southwest Norway introduced other types of plants in the second half of the 19th century, changed their cultivating techniques, and used more and new types of fertilizers. They also got an increasing problem. Weeds thrived. At this photo is a flowery meadow in front and behind a meadow of ryegrass. To domesticate monocultures like the ryegrass is more difficult than to tame a diversity of plants. As monocultures became an ideal in meadows and fields, the weed problem became even worse. To domesticate field had become a greater challenge, and it existed no solution to the weed problem. Agricultural helpers or experts employed by Norwegian state to implement modern cultivating techniques realized that increasing volume of weed could threaten their task. These plans exemplified that the cost-benefit promised by a modern agriculture might fail. In the region I use a case study, this was grasped by agricultural helpers from 1930. Agricultural helpers had already for 2 decades established laboratories in fields to compare plants. For instance, what type of grain or turnip that gave highest yields and under what terms. They were searching for the ideal type of plant and they were looking for the right type and amount of fertilizer. The results of their testing were passed on to farmers, like on these photos from 1926. The man in the meadow illustrated and proved the difference between giving the plants no nutrition to the left, using manure in the middle, and fertilizer to the right side. The pictures are passing on to the reader a message that is easy understandable. Science was in this example used as a tool to examine and to make and illustrate differences. Arenas of miracles had the same aims, and science was the means. From 1914, agricultural helpers saw herbicides as a suitable tool to eradicate weeds and domesticate plants in grain fields. At a time when farmers had no experience in handling chemicals, several arenas of miracles that displayed the striking effect of herbicides on weeds were established in the county. These arenas were like stages where a rehearsed play was performed. The scene was set like a laboratory where scientific tests were conducted. Farmers were invited as spectators. Herbicides were shown to perform miracles in the fields. The arenas made use of science and the laboratory as warranty of truth. The photo was taken in 1964, where such arena still was used to persuade farmers that herbicide was the right tool to eradicate plants, what type of herbicides and concentrations that gave the best effect. Arenas of miracle were staged. Agricultural helpers examined what combination of plants and herbicides that gave best results and most striking evidence before they set up the arenas. The laboratory setting kept the focus on interactions between certain plants and chemicals. Other interactions herbicides went into were hidden. Thus, the scene produced ignorance. Agricultural helpers also experienced failure. Grain could be weakened by the chemicals and wheat could thrive despite of the spray. Failure was explained as due to other factors than the herbicides, like the weather. human error, or the equipment. Weed remained a persistent problem to farmers. Herbicides did not eradicate the unwanted plants after 1920, and fields were still difficult to domesticate. Arenas of Miracle became one of several measures to persuade farmers to make use of chemicals against weed in Norway. A play was performed in these arenas, and they made use of science and the laboratory to generate truth. They were useful means for agricultural helpers who wanted to persuade farmers to use pesticides in the 20th century.